Transformers Age of Extinction. I have such mixed thoughts on this movie. It's probably both the best and worst Transformers movie we've had since the first one. Let's just start out with the human storyline. The human storyline, part of it is really good, and part of it's really bad. Mark Wahlberg does a great job in the role here, and he's actually given some good stuff to work with. He gets a couple good lines. He's actually the first human Transformers character to actually do something and fight off the robots and seem like it helps. He gets this cool robot sword gun. He's actually really good in the role. The Steve Jobs character is really good in the role. I say a Steve Jobs character because that's what it looks like they were going for. But bald dude, he's an inventor, like Chuck Yeager, who is Mark Wahlberg's character, and he's a billionaire, and he's working to make new Transformers, basically. His role, good. The Fraser dude, his role, good idea of what a post 9/11 alien-hating American would be, and he plays that role well. Two of the women character, two of the three, not very many women in this, but two of the three were actually pretty strong and actually got to kick some ass, so good on them. The problem lies in the other two main characters, which are the daughter, who has nothing, no good lines, no good story to go with. She makes dumb decisions. It's like, come on, Michael Bay. We already had the Megan Fox character in this movie with Megan Fox. We don't need another one. Can we just get an actual strong female lead, maybe? No? Okay, we'll just go with that. And then her boyfriend character, who starts off like, alright man, this guy's pretty cool, and he's actually pretty awesome. And then later he's screaming, I surrender. And it's like, well, did you just completely flip his character? And their romance you just don't care about. And their whole love story can basically be cut from the movie, and I wouldn't mind at all. Now we get to the Autobots. This is a really strong category for this movie. The designs of all the Autobots, new ones and old, are really cool, especially in the way that I could tell who the Autobots were when they were fighting. And some of the other Transformers movies, you're like, oh, these designs are too similar. I don't know if it's an Autobot or a Decepticon. And most of the time, you can tell here because all the characters have designs in their robot form. It's like, okay, I know who that is. I'm not able to name them because I'm bad with names, but I knew who the good robots were and who the bad robots were. And the robot designs were all really cool in this movie. You had a John Goodman voicing a robot, and he was a big guy, carrying all the guns, all a bunch of different ammo, his beard, just like a bunch of bullets. And it was like, okay, cool, I like this one. And you had this samurai robot. It's like, oh, I'm all about Anna. And he had like a gold face. And it's like, okay, he's pretty badass too. And he had like the lone wolf type. Green, looked like he was kind of like wearing one of those like samurai robes. I don't know what that was about, but it looked really cool. He was like, oh yeah, I just want to be on my own. And it's like, okay, I like all these. They all had personality. They all had good designs. The new Autobots were all really cool. Bumblebee's still probably the strongest supporting robot here. What was really cool about the Autobots in this movie is that Optimus Prime is really kind of a lead in this movie. In some of the other movies, the Autobots storyline was just kind of there, but in this one it was like, no, Optimus Prime really has a lot to do, and we get to see a different kind of Optimus Prime who's now kind of turned on humanity. Mark Wahlberg kind of pulls him back to the Optimus Prime we knew, but it was like, no, he's kind of crazy and upset with us now. And the new Decepticons, the Galvatron, and there was like a Bumblebee ripoff kind of. And then also the not Decepticon or Autobot, who's just a different Transformer, Lockout or something like that, who works for these creators, which I'll get to in a minute. But he had a really cool design. His face could turn into a gun. He was probably the most badass villain in this movie, and he's really the main villain. Galvatron's also kind of a villain, but they leave him open to come back. They leave the creators open to come back. There's quite a bit of villains in this, because you can kind of say the Steve Jobs character was a villain, and the Fraser guy was obviously a villain, and he also had an underling which was a villain. So Even this movie did a better job of pulling off multiple villains than Spider-Man 2. So, get your stuff together, Sony. Okay? And the action is really cool. But we get into one of the biggest problems with this movie, which really takes away what really could have been one of my favorite movies of the year, and that's just how long and unneededly long it needed to be. Now, I'm all for long movies. The Lord of the Rings movies are really, really long, but they all feel like they needed that length. There's not many scenes in Lord of the Rings that you can be like, that should have been cut to make this a bit shorter. No, every scene there mattered. The cut was cut out, and it was all pretty awesome. That can't be said for this. This movie is very badly paced to begin with. I mean, the first hour, there's one action scene, which just is not that cool. No offense to the movie. We're getting these story human lines that are like, okay, I don't really care. But basically, we got about 3 scenes to get the point that Chad Yeager's poor. We got a couple scenes to establish a character who gets killed really early on. We got a bunch of scenes of how this girl needed money to go to college and how she couldn't date. And like I said, the whole dating storyline could have been cut. Basically, you could have cut this down to not a 90-minute movie, but probably 110 minutes. It did not need to be almost 3 hours long. There's a bunch in the beginning that could have been cut, and you really feel it. The way this movie's paced reminds me a lot of The Lone Ranger, which I didn't hate, but it was really slow. One thing that separates it is that in Lone Ranger, you get this really slow, all this build-up for a 5 or 6 minute scene on a train. In this movie, you get all this build-up, and you get the last 20 minutes, which are probably my favorite, just pure 20 minutes of action that I've seen in a movie this year so far, in a while, because the last 20 minutes is really cool. There's dino robots, which I was kind of upset they didn't show up till the last 20 minutes, but they were really cool when they did show up. Optimus Prime using the sword, and they finished enough stuff for conclusion for the movie and leaving it open for the future in that last 20 minutes that I was like, that's definitely some of this could have been a good movie. But the first 2 hours, just a lot of it kind of dragged on, and if this was edited correctly, it could have been a really great movie, but it wasn't. A good thing that this movie has is it definitely has me looking for the future. Like I said, the way they ended it and the way they opened up the mythos, bringing in Transformers that weren't Decepticon or Autobots, bringing in this idea of creators, which you kind of get a glimpse of in the first scene where they got kind of a see-through alien hand, and it's like, this can be interesting. It definitely leaves it open enough to where we can have cool stuff on Earth, where we can bring back Chad Yeager, who, like I said, is actually a good human character, where we can open this up to space and maybe actually get a Transformer-centric Transformers movie, where this one I felt that it was kind of a 60% humans, 40% robots, which is probably the highest in the series so far. Maybe next time we can get 50% robot, 50% human, and maybe, an actual Transformers movie where it's like 60% Transformers. One can only hope. But like I said, it just dragged on so much in that 2 hours. That really takes away what could really have been an awesome movie. So unfortunately, and I'm sad about this with as awesome as this last 20 minutes were, because I have to judge the whole movie. I have to give this a C+. Is it worth seeing in theaters? Definitely, especially if you like Transformers movies. Is it better than Transformers 2 and 3? Of course. Is it better than Transformers 1? Probably the last 20 minutes were, but the whole movie, probably not, because the first Transformers movie seemed, for the most part, that it was the right length. It didn't drag on, and it actually made sense for Shia LaBeouf's character to be in that movie for once, unlike in the other ones. So yeah, overall, let me know what you thought of this movie. If you thought I should have gave it a higher grade because of how awesome the end was, or if I was right to bring it down because of how bad the first not cut part of the movie was. Please like, share, and subscribe. Sorry I haven't done a bunch of reviews in a while. I just hadn't been to the movies and didn't really have anything to review. But I do have a couple games I need to review this week. Girl Meets World I saw. I'm probably going to review that. And Under a Dome started last night, or Monday. It started sometime this week, and I need to go watch that and review that as well. But thank you for watching this, and I will see you next time.